vlog about sailing from Georgian Bay to the Caribbean at the beginning of December with snow on the ground. But fortunately, there's still all kinds of great stories and so on. Just got to keep walking here. That keep me busy for the wintertime. And hopefully you folks interested. Before I get into that, I just want to ask, if you haven't already, please subscribe. It costs nothing. It's a huge help. And eventually what I'm hoping to do is to be able to raise a few bucks for the Georgian Bay Land Trust. I think probably more than anything else, that's the whole idea, and also to see if I can learn how to do this properly. So a few weeks ago, we had a great big storm come through Georgian Bay, just like a freight train. Lots of big wind, lots of big waves. Apparently the waves were pounding up at 12 to 14 feet. And there was lots of trees that came down and lots of docks that came down and broken up and smashed up all over the shore. The hydro was out. And it was really kind of a mess. Something we thought was a pretty big deal. But it's been a big deal on Georgian Bay, it meaning big waves, big wind, big water, for 450 years. And I can tell you, 450 years ago, the very first ship that was lost in the storm, recorded lost in the storm, was LaSalle's Griffin, leaving Green Bay on its way over to Mackinac Island with a load of furs, and was never heard of again, blown out in a big storm. And in more recent times, what's in more recent times? The Maple Dawn on the west side of Christian Island. Maple Dawn was the largest wreck on Georgian Bay, and it was a good 300 and something feet long. And it was blown ashore and hit the rocks and came apart. The Michigan on the north side of Hope Island, it was blown ashore. Great big waves and rotten weather and so on. Lottie Wolf, Marquette, Cranage, Thomas Cranage. It's the largest wooden steamer ever built. And it was blown ashore onto the shoals at the Watcher Islands. So big storms are nothing new. But I can tell you, the storms that I've experienced and the storms that these ships experienced, well, there's a big, huge raven going, but two of them. Wow. Look at that. Anyways, these storms were nothing compared to the biggest recorded storm ever on Georgian Bay. What a great place. Even though it's wintertime. I hate the wintertime. Anyways, this storm happened in November, like all the other storms that took out all these ships. J.H. Jones and Wabano, Asia, everybody. Regina, everybody was lost in the storm in November. This one was eventually called the Big Blow. And the Big Blow was, well, it was kind of like a perfect storm. Except there was two rather than three. I don't know if you remember that movie George Clooney did of The Perfect Storm. What happened this was in 1913. Great big low pressure system developed down the bottom end of the Mississippi Valley. And surprisingly enough, it actually started to head north. And the farther north it got, the meaner it got and the stronger it got. And it really got nasty. It really got nasty with winds and rain and all that stuff. And at the same time, there was a great big huge low coming out of the prairies moving east. And when these two storms got together over the Great Lakes, well, it created one hell of a mess. There was kicking and gouging and cussing and swearing, and these two things were fighting like crazy to the point where the storm that was created lasted 4 days. And of those 4 days, or rather 3 of those 4 days, there were sustained winds of 90 miles an hour. Waves were recorded at 35 feet. Now, when the Edmund Fitzgerald went down in 1975, they thought the waves on Lake Superior at that time were 30 feet. So back in 1913, I don't know how they measured waves back then, but they claimed they were 35 feet. That's mighty big, I'll tell you. That is mighty big. So for 3 days, this wind just pounded, and the waves, just unbelievable destruction. Just unbelievable destruction. In fact, over the course of those 4 days, there were 19 ships lost, and 226 people were killed in that storm. Since shipping was recorded, I guess commercial shipping was recorded, and this goes all the way back to the Griffin, and this one's really hard to believe, but in the Great Lakes, over the past 450 years, there's been over 6,000 ships lost and 30,000 people lost their lives in rotten weather. Worse than rotten weather. It's a really nice stretch of woods, boy. Anyway, so the next time you're out in rotten weather in the boat and you think, holy cannoli, well, unless the wind's blowing at 90 miles an hour, it's nothing compared to what they called the big blow.